Day 16. Introduction. The ornate, leafy hand of the clock quivered. 7 minutes to 12. Johana had spent all morning trying not to look at it, but Eliška was staring it down, sighing with increasing regularity and starting to get on Johana's nerves. "He who waits will live to see it," said Johana. Eliška rolled her eyes. "Thanks, parson. You could just ask..." She dropped her voice to a whisper. "Josef." On cue, he came out of his office. Josef Papiernik was as tall and thin as a hop pole, and his circular spectacles and funeral black suit made him seem far older, when in fact he was actually a year younger than Johana. "Mr. Papiernik!" exclaimed Johana, jumping to her feet. He looked as embarrassed as she felt. "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to startle you." Eliška had hopped stealthily down from where she'd been sitting on her desk and smiled between Johana and Josef. "You know, girls, it's such a lovely day, I suspect you'd like to get to the boat." The sentence was still leaving his mouth as Eliška grabbed her coat and bag and reached for the door. "Thanks, Mr. Papiernik. We'll see you on Monday. Come on, Johanka." "Well," he started, "are you going down to Slappy? I was thinking of taking myself down there, if you'd like some company." He must have realised he was only looking at Johana, as he suddenly turned to Eliška as well. Eliška looked about to explode. "That's very kind, Mr. Papiernik," said Johana, "but I'm planning to meet someone at the dock and I'm not sure how he would feel about it." She had never lied so quickly in her life and felt awful about it. Eliška blinked dramatically. Josef was a statue. "Ah," he said eventually. "Of course. Have a lovely weekend," before moving slowly back to his office. "Not a word," said Johana through her teeth as she grasped Eliška by the upper arm and marched her out through the door. It was a glorious Saturday, and it seemed that the whole of Prague had spilled out onto the streets at the same time. As the two women wove their way through cigarette sellers and police horses, they saw pub waiters leaning around punters on the pavement, pouring out beer from earthenware jugs, and children kicking horse apples in the gutter as their parents followed behind with baskets and paper bags. When they reached the river, a small crowd had already gathered next to the paddle steamer that would take them all south for the weekend. "I'll get us some tickets," said Eliška, letting go of Johana's arm. "You need to look for this mysterious man you're apparently meeting." Johana didn't dignify her with a response and joined the queue at a refreshment stall. She bought 2 bottles of beer and some meatloaf sandwiches wrapped in paper. Moving back through the crowd, she craned her neck, looking for Eliška's frizzy hair. She found her friend, leaning against a railing, talking to 2 men in caps. One of them looked like he'd come from a factory, but his buddy could have been a teacher or a clerk. "Oh, here she is. Johana, I'd like you to meet Vitek and Yara." "Jan," corrected the clerk. Neither of the men looked happy to be there. "Looks like I found him for you," said Eliška, eyebrows raised. Johana was about to say hello when she saw Josef staring at her over everyone's heads on the crowded dock. He took in the scene and then quickly found something else to look at and disappeared. Johana suddenly didn't feel like making new friends. The factory worker and the clerk obviously felt the same way because by the time they were on board and moving out onto the Vltava, they were nowhere to be seen. The girls opened their beers and closed their eyes as they faced the sun. After her first mouthful, Johana felt better as her limbs relaxed. Even over the din of the paddle blades, the occasional head was forced to turn at Johana and Eliška's laughter as they drifted southwards. They'd looked forward to this all week, and so far, as tears ran down their faces and they lost their breath from time to time, it was living up to expectations. Slappy was a semi-rural river stop in central Bohemia that had fully embraced the young merrymakers that travelled down from the city between April and September. All along the riverbank surrounding the wooden jetty were waiting farmers, housewives, mill workers, spinners, publicans, all hawking anything someone looking to enjoy themselves might want. There was pear cider, strings of cured sausage, cheese, picnic blankets, hammocks, firewood, and Johana even saw a child trying to sell a guitar. As the groups and couples trickled to shore, they followed the gravel road that would take them on to the woods or one of the smaller streams, searching out a good place to start a fire and sing songs until it was time to take the boat back in the morning. Eliška's uncle had a small farm nearby and often let people stay just off the yard. He'd even strung up a canvas sheet and built up a little fire pit over the years. Johana liked knowing that they could meet strangers around the fire, but that there was someone to keep an eye on them all. When they reached the farm, they were greeted by Eliška's uncle, her cousin Viera, and the farm dog, Ferda, whose whole body wagged. They helped to prepare some firewood and answered Viera's burning questions about what was new in Prague. She was 17 and desperate to move to the city, but that was only about 8 in dad years. As darkness fell, the warmth of the fire brought sprites from the forest. 3 students from the university, they had plum brandy. A teacher and his wife, they had cake. And, to Johana's horror, Josef. He actually started to laugh. "I suppose it looks like I'm following you," he said, wiping his glasses on the hem of his jacket. "I really just took that fellow's suggestion." He looked at the teacher, who waved back cheerily. "I can certainly find somewhere else." No, don't be silly," said Johana. "Would you like to sit here?" asked Viera, patting the log next to her. Her eyes seemed larger than Johana remembered. Josef gratefully accepted and fell too easily into conversation with Eliška's young cousin.